Wuthering Heights, Far From the Madding Crowd. This is quite an album. Wuthering Heights essentially means roaring heights, which is certainly what this album reaches. They managed to contrast and blend various metal styles, such as power metal, folk metal, prog metal, and even neoclassical metal, and in doing so, truly creating a unique sound of their own. As for the album's title, the word madding is not a word in common vocabulary, but your instincts would probably serve you well. It is very similar to the word maddening, so the title is not too dissimilar to Far From the Maddening Crowd. It evokes the feeling of being so frustrated with people that you just want to escape into the wilderness. A theme both consistent with the cover and the music. However, madding also has a second meaning, which may be why they use that particular word. Madding also means acting mad or in a frenzy. So the crowd isn't just maddening to the individual longing to leave. The crowd is mad themselves. Some may find themselves thinking that modern man has lost his mind, and that life would be better living a more simple life in accordance with nature. This cover portrays this brilliantly. The first thing to catch your eye will be the building in the center. It somehow comes off as both a humble hut as well as a proud castle. It is also the only thing that is not orange-tinged, with the exception of the person standing in front of it. They also appear to be on an island, enhancing that sense of separation from the outside world. It is a little patch of nowhere. It slightly reminds me of stumbling across a random ruin in the Atlas Plateau in Elden Ring. A sense of discovery and familiarity in a beautiful setting. And with that exposition, let's dive in. Gather Ye Wild. This is the instrumental intro of the album. Starting with bagpipes and transitioning to guitar, it sets the tone. And it is epic, like a Man of War intro, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. It gives you a little bit of whimsy, and then it thrusts you into the first real song. Track 2, The Road Goes Ever On. The most striking thing about this track will no doubt be the singer, who does an amazing job and sounds remarkably similar to Ronnie James Dio. Instrumentally, it has got some great melody, but also has a great crunch to it. Lyrically, it is about an adventurer who is reflecting on his past, but not for long, as his adventures are ongoing. He is of a pre-modern mindset, remarking how he is behind his time, and another kind of blood. This sets the stage for the rest of the album. This character is an ideal that many secretly wish they could be like. This is probably the most repetitive track on the album, as the chorus repeats often. Yet it stays interesting, because the guitar is constantly doing its own thing, while the chorus replays. Track 3, Tree. This song reminds me of Sonata Arica a little bit. It displays that the vocalist can do other vocal styles rather than just the Dio impersonation. 1,000 years I stood here, I stand 1,000 more. And there is some backup singing as well, which truly shines here. The vocal harmonizing is great here, and some of the neoclassical elements peek through as well. This song is honoring nature, referencing that the tree is something with deep roots, that has strength and endurance. Track 4, Longing for the Woods, Part 1, The Wild Children. This is the first of a trilogy of tracks that is spread throughout the album, really hammering the message home. That being, well, Longing for the Woods. This probably has the most power metal intro I've heard, starting with ambient guitar noises, which cuts abruptly to an Iron Maiden-ish section where the wavering vocals and crunchy guitars are highlighted.
In their veins still runs the blood of the warrior.
Then the drums explode, and we get into the song proper. This is also the most folky song so far. We have a flute moment, some chanting, and even a part with some banjo, of all things. One of the more varied tracks for sure. Probably my favorite track of the trilogy, if not the entire album. Track 5, Highland Winds. This song has a bit of a 70s vibe. The chorus has a bit of that folk rock and prog rock sound.
Highland winds, you own my soul.
If the whole track sounded like this, it wouldn't be too out of place on a classic rock station. However, this track is far too varied for that, with much of what makes the previous tracks great being present here as well. Lyrically, I feel I am repeating myself, but it is another appreciation of the great outdoors, of the Highlands, and, of course, more wind going through your hair. This is ultimately what the whole album thematically represents. But don't let the seeming simplicity of the message take away from its metaphysical depth and the primal instincts within us all. For this album captures it perfectly. Track 6, Longing for the Woods, Part 2, The Ring of Fire.
Night falls, and I'm longing for the woods.
This is another take on the previous part. It is a bit more straightforward, less folk diversions, and more of a pure power metal track. With the odd surprise here and there. Track 7, The Bollard.
A word for happiness on that day.
Or what I like to call the ballad. This is a melancholic, folky ballad. There are more great harmonies here. However, there is some, for a lack of a better term, audio-narrative dissonance. It is describing a jovial occasion, yet it feels rather somber, as if the speaker is not really there in the moment, and can't enjoy himself the way the others can. Maybe I'm just reading too much into that, and maybe folk songs are just like this, but I also like the clever plays on words throughout this record. One here is, "It all seems so impermanent though, I think that it will never change."
It all seems so impermanent though, I think that it never will change.
A bit of a paradoxical statement. I officially give this song the stamp of doomer ballad. I'm just kidding. Track 8, Bad Hobbits Die Hard. Besides the sheer awesomeness of the title, this track showcases the band's technicality. It is an instrumental. The bass is more audible here. And once again, they venture into neoclassical areas. Track 9, Longing for the Woods, Part 3, Herne's Prophecy. Final portion of the Woods trilogy. Herne is a creature in English mythology, said to be a ghost man who has antlers on his head and rides a horse. This is an epic tune. The keyboards are more prominent here, and it almost has a symphonic vibe. Triumphant and melodic, it concludes the trilogy on a fantastic note. It's interesting how each part of the trilogy emphasizes a different aspect of their sound. Part 1 being folk metal, Part 2 being more power metal focused, and Part 3 being mostly prog metal. Track 10, Land of Olden Glory.
Once a young boy he set out on the road to fame and fortune.
These last two tracks have a similar theme, so I will discuss this towards the end. The track itself is more of the same, not much to say about it, but that's not a bad thing. It's all great, and this track in particular holds no punches, displaying the diverse range Wuthering Heights is capable of. Track 11, Lament for Lorien.
Out of battle I did come, afraid of darkness, afraid of the sun.
The album's closer. This is a softer tune and has a medieval quality to it. Fitting, given that it's named after a location in Middle-earth, of course, from Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. Lorien, or Lothlorien, is the home of one of the types of elves. If you are a pleb like me, who has only seen the movies, it is the place where we are introduced to Galadriel. I always thought this place stuck out from the other locations in these films. It is a bit mysterious, and we don't see a lot of it, perhaps adding to that mystical charm. Whereas the previous track discusses an adventurer leaving the Land of Olden Glory, this track is lamenting having to leave a place of such magnificence.
Could I say I would never leave? Could I say I would ever be?
Going back to the pre-modern mindset I mentioned at the beginning, this is a common topic, the idea of some idyllic homeland where people once lived and may one day return to, but currently we reside somewhere else that is not as ideal. This manifests in many variations, including Norse mythology with Valhalla and Christianity with Eden, for just a couple examples. And there are other versions such as Hyperborea. Whether the belief is that we have fallen from this place or will go there when we die, it is irrelevant. The pre-modern worldview asserts that time is cyclical. Only modern man views time as linear. This is why I believe the pre-modern mindset romanticizes the nomad or the adventurer, the wanderer without a home. For we are all without a home, so those who do feel at home in this strange fallen land we reside in may be viewed as crazy to the pre-modern adventurer, and he may want to take up a temporary residence far from the madding crowd. Thank you for listening. If you like Wuthering Heights, I was told you can buy their music on Nagelfest. I hope I pronounced that correctly. This Danish metal band is underrated. Check them out, and send Eric Raven my regards.